At first, we didn't agree on how much and how hard we should work. These guys are one of the most famous rock groups ever. It was impossible to forget their smooth duets and hits like Hotel California and Take It Easy. They ruled the music world and changed rock and roll forever. The Eagles have won many awards, including 6 Grammys, and have sold more than 200 million songs around the world. Things weren't always peaceful behind the music, though. Imagine how tense it must have been when friends who used to laugh and dream together started fighting, and even fighting on stage. In this movie, we'll look into the Eagles' strange rivalries and show how friends became enemies through bitter fights. Stay tuned as we find out what the song is really about. Think of the energy of rock music mixed with the stories of country music. It was this plan that would help the Eagles stand out. The Eagles' first record, just called Eagles, came out in 1972 and included hits like Take It Easy. The record showed off their beautiful harmony and set them up for future success. Every song was like a window into their lives and experiences, and people all over the world could relate to them. The Eagles quickly became popular, and their smooth vocals and relatable songs won over many people. What was it about their sound that made it so unique? What did these 4 talented people do to make songs that so many people could relate to? Stay tuned as we learn more about the Eagles' journey, something new in quick hits. Let's go back to 1974, a very important year for the Eagles. This was the year that they added Don Felder as a new member. Felder wasn't just a guitar player. He was a truly amazing artist whose amazing skills would soon take the band's music to whole new levels. His unique style, which mixed rock with a touch of country, gave the band a new sound that went well with how well they already got along. Felder's addition was like putting the last piece in a very complicated puzzle. The Eagles had a great sound before he joined, but after he did, everything fit together perfectly. All of a sudden, their music got louder and more lively. Felder's guitar playing let them try new things and go in new musical ways, making sounds that really spoke to their fans. It was like they had found the last thing their already amazing recipe was missing. The song Take It Easy was one of their big hits. When it came out in 1972, this happy song quickly won over fans everywhere. It was hard to say no to the catchy chorus and lively beat. You could always hear it on the radio. A lot of people were singing along at very loud levels. The song showed how relaxed people were in the early 1970s and told everyone to relax and enjoy life. This song was a great mirror of the time, and the Eagles really hit it big with this one. Take It Easy was a big hit, but they had more hits after that. They put out the song Desperado in 1973, which showed a different side of the band and how deeply they could feel. This song was a turning point for them, showing how deeply they could express themselves through music. Desperado spoke to everyone who had ever felt lost or lonely with its haunting melody and moving words. It wasn't just a song, it was a story that people could relate to on a deep level. The Eagles showed that they were more than just a band by using their songs to tell stories about their lives. As the band kept making hits, their fan base grew by leaps and bounds. Their concerts were electric, full of emotion and energy that made people want more. People could not get enough of the Eagles' songs, and they played to sell out crowds. Fans looked forward to every new album release and every show, which became a legendary event. From a small band, they became a cultural force that won over the hearts of music fans all over the world. The band was still enjoying their newfound fame, but they were about to start something new. Yet, there were still hills to climb and problems to solve. They had no idea that their trip would soon take them to the top of their success, where they would face both joy and trouble. How would that look? Let's find out. The highest level of success. The Eagles' career reached an amazing high point that truly marked the peak of their success as they soared to great heights. Their famous record, Hotel California, came out in 1976. This record wasn't just a bunch of songs, it was a cultural phenomenon that changed the way people listened to music forever. The Eagles had found something special, and people were ready to accept it. They put their whole selves into this project, which also had a folk feel to it. It changed everything. Many people could relate to the deep issues that Hotel California explored. The haunting melody and mysterious words of the title track tell a story of living the glamorous life of rock and roll and getting caught up in it. People who listen to it are drawn into a beautiful but false world where everything seems perfect but is actually dangerous. You can check out whenever you want, but you can never leave has become a famous line that represents the problems many people have with fame and drugs. But what was so important about Hotel California? You can't say enough about how it changed rock music. The album changed the bar for what rock music could do by combining complex guitar work, lush harmonies, and lyrics that made you think. The Eagles did more than just make great music. They wove a complex web of sound and meaning together. Those things made people think. Hotel California won a lot of awards and was a big deal at the time it came out. Not only did it top the charts, but it also cemented the Eagles' place in music history. A lot of artists in all kinds of styles have been influenced by the album. It must have been amazing for the Eagles to be so successful. It makes you wonder what happens when fame gets so big. How do relationships change when someone is in the spotlight? They had no idea that tensions were starting to rise at the same time as their victories. The bass has cracks. As the Eagles reached new heights, the friends who used to love each other slowly faced a harsh truth. The music business was changing, and as their fame grew, cracks started to show in what was once a strong bass. As their songs became more popular and were shown on TV, the band began to see problems with how each member was performing. This sudden attention made things tense in the group. Let's look at some specific events that showed how these tensions were getting worse. One event that stands out is when Don Felder and Glenn Frey got into a fight. It all began during a practice run for their live shows. Felder had a clear idea of how the song Hotel California should sound, but Frey didn't agree. As they argued about the plan, you could feel the anxiety. This fight was a sign of bigger stylistic differences that the band was having. They couldn't work together because they were stuck in a loop of fights, each one worse than the last. Even with these problems, the Eagles were able to release their famous record, Hotel California, in 1976. The title track, which featured Felder's hot solo guitar playing, became an instant classic. The first lines, "Welcome to the Hotel California," were a huge hit, drawing in fans from all over the world. But along with their international success came the things that would bring them down. Tensions rose even more behind the scenes. Was deleted from the final version for some reason, which made everyone in the band very angry. Felder felt deceived, and it was clear that the friendship they used to have was ending. Both Henley and Frey, who were leading the group, began to doubt each other's intentions. When Felder made a mocking comment about Henley and Frey being like gods, it showed how tense their relationship had become. As these personal differences became clear, they changed not only how they interacted with each other, but also how well they did in their acts. Would the Eagles be able to work out their differences, or was the end of their unity just around the corner, the fight that made the stage shake? As time went on, the Eagles' problems started to accumulate and get worse, making the band members feel nervous. By 1980, everything had hit a point of no return that no one could have seen coming. Don Felder and Glenn Frey got into a shocking fight on stage during a political fundraiser show. The fight started as a disagreement. Can you picture being in the crowd that night and seeing all the chaos? Felder and Frey got into a fight in front of the crowd, and Frey was clearly angry. 3 more songs. "I'm ready to go, and I see what you see." He said, "I can't wait to get my hands on you." It was easy to feel how intense Frey's voice was. It felt like everyone in the room was holding their breath because of the anxiety. While music played in the background, the main event was taking place right in front of everyone. Fans were shocked. A lot of people couldn't believe it and were asking if it was all part of a bigger plan. The news quickly picked up on the story and made it sound like a controversy that rocked one of the biggest bands in the world to its core. This wasn't just a small argument. It was an important event that showed the holes in their friendship. It was clear that their union had been badly damaged after the fight. They were no longer the close-knit group that had made so many memorable songs together. Even though they never formally broke up after that fight, the bond they used to have was definitely broken. A huge change had happened in the mood of the band, and it was hard to leave alone. What made this even more interesting was how the Eagles kept going after such a public show of disagreement. After 14 years, they would act again, and they would still be full of energy and passion. But there was still a question. Could the magic they used to have ever come back? The fight changed not only how they interacted with each other, but also how fans saw the band. There was a long pause. By the 1990s, the Eagles' quiet was stronger than ever, and fans all over the world felt it. A huge reunion was something that a lot of people wanted. They dreamed of the day when their favorite band would play again. Behind the scenes, though, each band member was lost in their own world. Their old fights had left deep scars that were still healing, making it seem hard to think about getting along again. The Eagles didn't seem to be in the news much during these years. To keep fans happy, there were no new albums or exciting trips. Instead, each band member worked on their own projects outside of the group. Don Henley was busy trying to make a name for himself as a single artist by writing hits that showed off his songwriting skills. At the same time, Glenn Frey went out on his own and put out songs that showed his style and vision. It was an artistic time, but it was also a time of being apart. Fans felt like something was missing, even though each member was doing well on their own. There wasn't the magic of the Eagles, that special mix of voices and melodies. Would they get back together? People still wanted to get back together and wondered if the wounds could ever heal. Things turned bad in 2001. Don Felder, who was an important part of the Eagles' sound, was fired out of the blue. This shocking firing wasn't just a personal problem. It quickly turned into a public story that fans and the media were all interested in. Felder didn't wait long to answer his shot. He sued Don Henley and Glenn Frey, saying they fired him without a good reason. He said that they were taking too much of the band's money, even though they had agreed earlier to split the gains equally. The Eagles' private fights became a public show during this court case. Fans watched as the members of their favorite bands took their problems to court. There were stories all over the place. In living rooms and coffee shops, people talked about claims of unfair treatment and angry encounters. The fight made people wonder about their loyalty, justice, and even the music itself. How did the Eagles, a band that used to be praised for working together well, get so out of control? This fight was disappointing for many fans. Their lives had been shaped by the Eagles' songs, and now they were seeing the band they loved fall apart right in front of their eyes. A lot of people thought this was the end for the Eagles. Would they ever make up and get back together? The hope for a possible reconciliation lingered like a sweet melody, but in fact, there were a lot of lawsuits and bad feelings. Fans held their breath, hoping that something would happen. Would the Eagles be able to forgive each other and get back on stage together? The story wasn't over yet, and something new was about to happen. Suits and court fights. Don Felder's lawsuit against the rest of the Eagles members reopened old scars and stoked long-buried anger that had been building for years. It looked like a slow-motion train crash. Even though you knew it would hurt, you couldn't help but look away. When Felder was let go, he felt angry and bitter. He thought he was being treated unfairly, especially when it came to how the gains were shared among the members. It wasn't just about money. It was a way to thank him for all the hard work he had put into the band. Don Henley and Glenn Frey took Felder's claims very seriously. They thought Felder was trying to make people dislike them and felt like they had no choice. They believed that he had broken the deal and they were ready to fight back. In return, they sued Felder again, telling everyone that he had written a sarcastic book that showed the band's dirty laundry. Fans were not used to this kind of peace. Felder's book, Heaven and Hell My Life and the Eagles, gave a hint of how different their musical highs and personal lows were. There were fights and problems that had been kept from the public for years because he told stories from behind the scenes. The author gave an honest and open account of what it was like to be in one of the most famous bands ever. The book not only told about his experiences, but it also gave readers a clear picture of how complicated the band was, which made fans question everything they thought they knew. The courtroom quickly turned into a battlefield, and the Eagles' once-loved friendship turned into a sloppy public show. Fans were tense as they watched the members of the band, who used to sing together wonderfully, fight with each other through harsh words and legal claims. There was more to the case than just money. It was about fame, trust, and how much it costs. They could feel that the band was falling apart right in front of their eyes. The people became more and more interested in the specifics of their disagreements. They eagerly ate up every bit of news about the drama going on behind the scenes. How did a band that used to make such lovely music get so bad? People used to look up to the Eagles as models of rock harmony, but now they were in a nasty fight that could overshadow their musical legacy. Fans couldn't help but wonder if there was any chance for peace as the legal fights went on. After all of this trouble, could the Eagles get back together? Music wins out. That wasn't the end of their story. The band had been through a lot, and it looked like they would no longer be working together. But in 1994, they shocked everyone by getting back together to make a record called Hell Freezes Over. Fans were thrilled. People who like their music will really enjoy this album because it has a unique mix of live recordings and new studio songs. There has been a joke for a long time that the Eagles would never get back together, which was where the smart title came from. Still, they were there to show everyone who didn't believe them wrong. The fun didn't end when the record came out. The Eagles went on the road again after Hell Freezes Over came out. They went on a trip that gave them a chance to reconnect with their fans. It was clear that the band members got along. When they went on stage, their live shows were nothing less than electric. Fans gathered to see them because it felt like a reunion party. People were excited to listen to their favorite songs again because they made them feel nostalgic. It was like the years that had passed had only made their link stronger. Everyone on stage felt like they were back in love with their music all over again thanks to the unity and energy they brought to it. For the Eagles, Long Road Out of Eden was their 6th #1 record in the US. It came out in 2007. This record showed how they could change while staying true to their roots. The songs had the same rich harmonies that fans loved, and they were a beautiful mix of rock and country. People were thrilled when the Long Road Out of Eden tour began in 2008. Fans were thrilled to see the Eagles back together, telling new stories and remembering old ones. The show included hits from the past as well as new songs. They then started the long history of the Eagles tour in 2013, the same year that their documentary History of the Eagles came out. For fans, this show was one of a kind because it gave them a close look at the band's history. The Eagles told stories about how they got started, the hard times they went through, and the music that made their lives what they were. It was an emotional trip down memory lane that made everyone feel nostalgic and thankful. But bad things happened when Glenn Frey died in January 2016. His death left a big hole in the band and in the hearts of fans all over the world. Everyone was struck by how fragile life is at that moment. Even though this was a very sad loss, the Eagles chose to celebrate Frey's memory by reforming in 2017. They let country star Vince Gill and Glenn's son Deacon Frey sing lead on some of Frey's songs. This touching tribute to Glenn kept his memory alive and let the band keep making music. Deacon Frey quit the band in 2022, but he came back in 2023 to join the Eagles on their last tour. The fact that he came back showed how much the family cared about the music and the Eagles' heritage. Sad to say, Randy Meisner died in 2023, which was another loss for the band and its fans. The Eagles were through a lot of trouble and sadness, but they were able to get back together and prove that they were one of the best rock bands ever. But the wounds from their dangerous trip were still there. These scars are a reminder of what success costs and how fragile it is to work together as an artist. With all of their ups and downs, the Eagles have shown that music can bring people together and make ties that last a lifetime. How will they leave their mark on the world? One thing is for sure, only time will tell. A big part of their story will always be the music. Other bands with stories like this one. Not only did the Eagles make people hate each other on TV and in public, but other bands did the same. Creedence Clearwater Revival was one of these well-known bands. They are often called one of the most fiercely divided bands in the world. One of the most heartbreaking stories about a band whose friendship turned into hate is the story of Creedence Clearwater Revival. The band's story is often called one of the saddest times in rock history. They are known for their upbeat blues rock songs and their meteoric rise in the 1960s. People saw John Fogerty as the heart of Creedence Clearwater Revival because he was the band's charismatic lead singer. His strong personality often made his teammates, his brother Tom, bassist Stu Cook, and drummer Doug Clifford, look less important. Hits like Proud Mary and Bad Moon Rising were made by them together. But problems were building up below the surface from the start. But why? The other band members were jealous of John's strong influence on lyrics and performance. The band sadly broke up at some point, breaking the hearts of their loyal fans who still want them to get back together. At first, everyone in the band was close friends, and John was always open to hearing what other people had to say. The willingness to work together seemed to grow. However, in a later interview, Stu Cook talked about this time and said that John at first liked hearing what his friends had to say. But as the band's popularity grew, John's power over their music and direction grew. He wanted to be in charge and lead the band without anyone else's input. His growing power met with the goals of others, especially his brother Tom, who felt left out even though he was good at writing songs. When Tom quickly quit the band in 1971, things began to change. His leaving was a bitter blow that brought to a head unaddressed problems and hurt feelings. Later, John Fogerty said that he and his brother didn't face each other directly because he hated his brother. Over time, the band members stopped talking to each other, which meant the end of their creative relationship that had helped them become famous over the years. After Tom left, he started a new part of his life that was full of court cases and public fights. John first said that Fantasy Records was stealing his earnings. The record company said at the same time that John owed them money for albums that were not finished, which made his true motives clear. He was greedy. His court cases took away from the band's legacy and turned their once promising future into a battleground of broken vows and unfulfilled hopes. Creedence Clearwater Revival broke up for good in 1972, leaving behind anger and bitterness. After this heartbreaking moment, John Fogerty went on to work as a single artist, and the other band members formed Creedence Clearwater. Went back and kept playing their old hit songs without the important song. John's greed finally caught up with him when Fantasy Records later tried to sue him for writing songs that sounded too much like Creedence Clearwater Revival's work. In the 1990s, Tom told his brother John how much he loved him before he died, which was a sign of healing. Even though they did this, John didn't say anything about getting back together. This was the last part of their story. In 1993, CCR was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. First, I'd like to thank Tom Fogerty. I miss him. John said during the induction that Tom was the one who got the rest of us into a recording studio when we were 15 to help him try to get a record deal. But when CCR came out, John could play the band's old hits with a new group of musicians instead of his old partners. A lot of people saw this show as his last painful act toward his former bandmates, but their die-hard fans still loved it. Creedence Clearwater Revival's story shows us that creative differences in fame can break up even the best bands. Another band that had similar problems was the Brian Jonestown Massacre, which was started in San Francisco in 1990 by Anton Newcomb. The band was known for crazy rock shows, and they had a great way of connecting with their fans, which made them one of the most popular bands by 2023. But things came to a head during the Brian Jonestown Massacre's tour of Australia, when Newcomb got into a fight with bassist Ryan Van Hoy right on stage in front of millions of people. The music will stop when you take the F off. Their live show became a show of chaos because of this, and it was a dramatic end to their tour. News sources say that the bandmates had been fighting with each other for years. The documentary Dig also showed how Newcomb and Courtney Taylor of the Dandy Warhols felt about each other and how much they hated each other. When they fought on stage in Melbourne, it wasn't just for show. It was caused by a deep-seated dislike. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young and the Black Crowes. Another example is the Black Crowes, which was started in 1984 by Chris and Rich Robinson. The band had terrible things happen because of their bad relationship. When drummer Steve Gorman was fired in 2001, things started to get tense. Years later, in 2015, Chris and Rich got into a public fight, causing them to split up, breaking yet another band. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young's rise and fall in the 1970s went in a similar direction. David Crosby's crazy behavior and drug problems made things more difficult in the band. In 2014, Graham Nash said that a full return was no longer possible, mostly because Crosby had stopped being in the group. With Crosby's sad death in 2023, the last chapter was closed and there was no chance for reconciliation. Even the Everly Brothers, who were known for their smooth vocals and hits like By Love, had arguments. Their brotherly bond, which had been a big part of their success, started to fall apart as they dealt with drug and personal problems. In 1973, this stress reached a peak and led to a breakup on stage. The band's Levon Helm and Robbie Robertson also saw their relationship get worse over time. Their once-aligned goals became very different, especially after Robertson broke up the group in 1976. Even though Robertson tried to fix their broken relationship, problems didn't go away until Helm's death in 2012. Still, their music kept shining, connecting the hard times they had in the past with the ongoing power of their work. The stories of these famous bands show how their success was built on difficult and sometimes painful relationships. What do you think about the fact that people in the same band are fighting? Please tell us what you think in the space below. Hey family, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you liked this video. You shouldn't leave until you've watched the next video that comes up.